So, good morning. Steps on the Path to Transformation, Part 2. And we're doing five parts this month. So last week was Part 1. This is Part 2. Didn't have to come up with creative names for each week. It works out well. So this month we're going to continue to look at how to respond spiritually to the outward appearances of breakdown and chaos that we can sometimes see going on in the outside world, right? Our Science of Mind founder, Ernest Holmes, once wrote, "Our world offers us the opportunity to cooperate with it on a spiritual basis or to argue with it on a material basis. If we do the first, we have an abundant life with great peace. If we resist and argue with circumstances, we find our troubles heap themselves upon us in even greater measure." So this month, we are choosing to cooperate with the world on a spiritual basis by building our spiritual armor with 15 concepts taught by the master teacher, Jesus Christ, or Jesus the Christ. We know that Christ was not his last name, right? So 2 important ideas that I want to review from last week. First, we're not building armor in order to prepare to go into battle. We kind of associate armor with battle sometimes, but that's not what we're doing. Rather, the armor we are building this month is armor that will provide us with strength, protection, and empowerment. And second, we're not building an armor that is going to be built or worn on the outside. Rather, it's going to be built from the inside. It's an armor of consciousness, an internal structure of thoughts, feelings, beliefs, values, and attitudes that strengthen, protect, and empower us regardless of the tumultuous winds that are blowing around us. So these 15 concepts, these 15 statements, we're doing 3 each week, are spoken by our master teacher Jesus, are discussed in this book by Deepak Chopra, The Third Jesus. And this book particularly served as the inspiration for my talk titles and my talks this month. So we're not going to backtrack each week because that would we'd be here forever, and there's food, so no. But rather we're going to pick up from where we left off the week before. So today we're going to look at number 4, 5, and 6, the 4th, 5th, and 6th concepts of Jesus, which we're using to build our spiritual armor. Or we could call them the 4th, 5th, and 6th steps on our path to transforming into an awakened God or spirit consciousness. These steps or concepts are found in well-known biblical statements, and we'll see how well-known they are. I'm going to start them, and you can finish them. So, ask, and it shall
be received.
Be given. Very good. All right. Forgive those who trespass
Against us.
Very good. Be still.
And no.
You guys are good. Look at that. All right. So before we look into each of these, here's a little Bible trivia for you. Ding, ding, ding. Right? Which of the statements that I just read did Jesus not actually say? Those 3. I'll read them again. We have ask and it shall be given, forgive those who trespass against us, and be still and know. Which did he?
Forgive trespass.
Forgive us. Forgive us.
No, that's
The one that he did not say.
Oh,
The other one.
third one.
Third one.
Second
Third one.
The third one. Yep, be still and know. Okay. That actually comes from Psalms, and we'll get to why this is one of my... we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So let's look at the first one right now, which is ask and it shall be given. This statement appears as at Matthew 7:7, and it reads, "Ask and it shall be given unto you, seek and you shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you, for whoever asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks the door is opened." And I love what Ernest Holmes writes about that in The Science of Mind. He says, "We now come to a definite teaching regarding prayer. We shall receive that for which we ask. It shall be open to us when we knock, and we shall find that for which we shall find that which we are searching." This teaching implies that the definitiveness of spiritual and mental work. God is an intelligent mind and spirit, and there is a direct response from the universal intelligence to our intelligence. Here we are meeting the law of cause and effect in the teachings of Jesus, and he explicitly tells us to ask directly for what we want. Can't say it any clearer than that. Jesus' feeding of the multitude is a great example of the concept to ask. Okay, in Matthew, it says, when it was evening, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a lonely place, and it is getting late. Dismiss the people so that the men may go to the villages and buy food for themselves." Well, two things happened here. First, the people made it known to the disciples that they were hungry and they needed food. Then the disciples relayed the information to Jesus. In other words, information about what was needed was put into words and effectively communicated. That's the definition of ask. If you want your needs fulfilled, you must make them known. How many of you hear about people who say, well, I didn't get what I wanted for Christmas, my husband didn't give me, well, did you tell him what you wanted? No, but he should have known. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Ask for what you
Go
want.
with him when he buys it.
There you go. Ask for what you want. You've got to make your needs. You've got to communicate your needs and make them known. And that's a very important step in our own creative process when we're doing our own creative work, right? Only the first step. It's just the first step, but it's an important one. And then there's the second one before we even get to the 5 steps of treatment. In the third Jesus, Chopra refers to it when he writes, "The next time you pray for something or simply desire it, go through the following steps. First, express the desired outcome to yourself clearly." Being clear is important. In an Ernest Holmesian speak, so to say, we would say that the act of expressing the desired outcome to yourself clearly is creating a mental equivalent. Who's heard of mental equivalence before? Okay. It is the mental emotional picture of what it is you desire to experience. We have devised a really easy way to know what your mental equivalent is. Just answer these 2 questions in the already done mode, okay? How will I feel when this prayer is answered? How does it feel when you get the answer to your prayer? And how will my life be better? How will my life be better? We will have an experience with this just in a moment. Chopra writes some significant and meaningful words when he writes, "The purpose of taking this attitude toward prayer isn't so that you can get more than you have in the past. As with every aspect of the spiritual path, the purpose of prayer is to overcome the sense of separation." So important to remember that. In the state of unity that Jesus experienced, every thought brought a response from God. In the state of separation that his followers experienced, many thoughts seemed to get no response. This represented a breakdown of communication. To restore it required a new sense of self. Jesus repeatedly teaches that you are in God and God is in you. Gradually, we can begin to experience this truth, and one of the best ways is by observing how our prayers are answered. And that's from the book. And I know that for me personally, and for my husband Rich, what we did when we first started studying scientific mind treatments and practicing, we kept journals. We'd write out our treatments, but we always had a page for the demonstrations so that we could see the results and we could connect the cause and effect. Pretty powerful stuff. So our job then is to begin to be alert, aware, and available for how your prayers are being answered, and allow your answered prayers to be a pathway to the intimate connection with God that is your natural way to live. So number 2 for today, forgive those who trespass against us. Boy, I've talked about forgiveness a lot because it's a big one. It really is. Another natural way to live is in a state of peace and harmony and love. And a surefire way to stay out of the natural place to be is in a state of unforgiveness, thus prompting Jesus to include the concept of forgiveness in his most significant prayer, which was the Our Father or the Lord's Prayer. And Chopra, he included it in his, it's so important he included it in his 15 Steps to God Consciousness. In her book, Anatomy of the Spirit, Carolyn Mace writes, "When we harbor negative emotions toward others or toward ourselves, we poison our own physical and spiritual systems. By far the strongest poison to the human spirit is the inability to forgive oneself or another person. It disables a person's emotional resources. The challenge then is to refine our capacity to love others as well as ourselves and to develop the power of forgiveness. A psychology college professor once told each of his students to bring a clear plastic bag and a sack of potatoes to class. Then they were asked to take a personal inventory of every person or event or experience that they had not forgiven. For every such thing, they were to choose a potato and write on it, and put the name and the date, and then they had to put it back into that plastic bag. And some of their bags, as you can imagine, were quite heavy. They were told to carry this bag with them everywhere for 1 week, putting it beside their bed at night and on the car seat next to them when they were driving, next to their desk at their other classes or at work. And the hassle of lugging around this made it clear that it was the weight that they were carrying spiritually and how they had to pay attention to it all the time and not forget and leave it and be embarrassed. Oh my gosh, whoops, I left my sack of potatoes here. That would be kind of embarrassing to just accidentally leave it. And so naturally, the condition of the potatoes deteriorated to a nasty, smelly slime, and to the point where the students were more than glad and relieved when the professor told them to throw the bags away. But wasn't this a great metaphor for the price that we pay for keeping pain, resentment, and heavy negativity? Wow. Too often we think that forgiveness is a gift that we give to the other person, and clearly it is a gift that we give ourselves because we release that load. You may say, I've tried to forgive, but I can't. And that's not quite the truth. The fact is, you think you can't forgive because you've learned not to forgive. Because you've spent a long time practicing not forgiving, and because, in fact, you've mastered the art of not forgiving. There's a time when you were a child that forgiveness was just instinctual, wasn't it? Before you caught the mental disease of unforgiveness, it was effortless and natural to forgive. We used to forgive others when we were young almost right away, didn't we? If you see two children, now, if you go out on a playground and you see them get into a fight and they hit each other and the children, cry and they run to their mothers, right? And the one mother goes to talk to the other mother. And pretty soon, the two moms are going at it, right? But what are the kids doing? They're off playing as if nothing ever happened. They express their anger or their upsetness, and then they let it go, and they went back to playing. But boy, the moms are still mad, and they're angry, and they're harboring resentment, and who knows how long that's going to be. But the kids are just fine. They've gotten over it. Because I think we are born with the innate capacity to love. We don't want to be held back. We don't want to have to carry that load of potatoes every time we perceive an injustice. And it's not just us. It's all of life. This week I was watching some amazing videos on YouTube. Thanks to Rob, who helped me connect it to my TV. But anyway, there was one, this was actually kind of cute. It was a cat and a crow. It started with a little kitten, and the crow adopted this little kitten. Now, you wouldn't think that these two animals would get along, but they grew up and they are buddies. And the video goes on for quite a while, and they are playing with each other. And it's, quite amazing. I'm watching this thinking, this is a natural predator to the crow. But no, they're getting along. And there's the other ones that I've seen, the dog with the elephant. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that. Just, wouldn't think. And how about the lion with the dachshund? Look that one up. That one is just, dachshunds like to and we were wondering why most dogs do this, but they lick other dogs' mouths. Well, when they're puppies, that's the way to get them to regurgitate food or whatever in the wild. And so we were wondering. But this is a little tiny dachshund and a big old lion, and it's cleaning its teeth. And you're just thinking, oh, you could be hors d'oeuvres or lunch or something. Little dachshund, big lion. But it's so cute, and the lion just sits there and just takes it and loves it. Yeah, it's just amazing. It's we're born with that innate capacity to love, but we have anything that's opposite of that is a learned behavior, and we've practiced it so much that returning to love through forgiveness can seem impossible, but it is not. It may just be a little difficult, but it's not impossible. So that's the reason that we're talking about this is because we're going to build our spiritual armor of strength and protection and empowerment that will allow us to work with forgiveness and have that be part of our lives. So finally today, number 3, which is be still and know. Our final element is composed of words that actually came from the Psalms, as we said before, instead of Jesus. They are be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Chopra thinks that Jesus implied be still and know that I am God when he said, abide in me as I abide in you. He believes that this statement refers to the importance of the practice of meditation. And even though Jesus didn't specifically teach meditation, it's become an essential aspect of spiritual practice, hasn't it? How many of us meditate? Okay. If we take meditation or be still to be an isolated activity that we do when we want to find an oasis of peace and calm, we might miss the larger point. Because the purpose of meditation is to connect with reality, to connect with that spiritual reality. And there's no special benefit to silence per se. Rather, the mind's incessant activity distracts it from what lies below the level of activity. Silence is only one aspect and not the most important. At the source, you're connected with pure awareness, the wellspring of all intelligence, power, and organizing ability. If you allow yourself to be still, you can begin to observe these qualities at work, both inside yourself and beyond. Be still and know that I am God refers to the practice of unfolding into a deeper reality than the surface mind was ever aware existed. And being still isn't really something that can be talked about. We can't just talk about it. You can't say, gee, describe meditation to me. We have to experience it. Meditation is something that has to be experienced. So that is exactly what we're going to do as we wrap up each of today's ideas. And we're going to do this together in a minute. We're going to pull all 3 ideas together into a meditation. But first, let's review. The first idea is ask, and we shall receive. Purpose and mental, the mental equivalent. The second, forgive those who trespass against us. Make the conscious choice to live from your natural state of peace, harmony, and love. And the third, be still and know. Connect with God through stillness. Through stillness. So if you choose, close your eyes and get comfortable. Just take a moment right now to identify, to think about something in your life that needs to be forgiven. And articulate in your own mind the purpose. You can say, I desire to forgive. It can be an experience, a person, anything. It can be yourself. I desire to forgive. And complete that sentence. Get a mental image or mental equivalent of how you will feel and how your life will be better when you have forgiven whatever it is you've chosen. Now in this clean, clear, natural state, simply rest. Be still. Feel the presence of divine love, light, and energy inside you. From the words of Ernest Holmes, be still, O soul, and know. Look unto the One and be illumined. Rejoice, be glad, for Spirit lights the way. Lift up thine eyes and behold the face of God, for it is beautiful to behold. Listen for God's voice, which will tell thee of marvelous things. Receive Spirit, for in this presence there is peace. Take counsel from divine intelligence, for in it there is wisdom. Be still in God and rejoice in this love forevermore. And so it is. Come back when you're ready.